Hello, welcome to another edition of Catawba Valley Blitz. My name is Zach Hansley. I'm alongside my man Curtis Sharp. Today we're going to run over this upcoming week's matchup as well as recapping our game of the week last week. We only have 3 matchups this upcoming week. One of them includes Lincoln and West Lincoln. Lincoln is led by freshman quarterback Cordell Littlejohn. He's a pretty good athlete, Curtis. Also, West Lincoln coming off a very bad loss to Ford. That score was 42-28. Curtis, what do you have for this game?
Well, for West Lincoln, they have not defeated Lincoln since October 13th of 2006, and they beat them at Lincoln High School, where they'll be playing on Friday, and they beat them there by a final score of 21-12. Also, in the last 2 meetings since 2012, Lincoln has outscored West Lincoln by a total of 58-27. Last year, West Lincoln played extremely tough against Lincoln. The game was close. West Lincoln had every opportunity in the world. A late fumble and a penalty in a game that West Lincoln lost its head there at the end. Cost them a football game. They lost 21-13.
So what's going to be your final prediction for this game, Curtis?
I like Lincoln, but I think this game's going to be a little bit closer. Like last year's game, I'm going with Lincoln to win this one 27-12.
I'm going to go with the final score of Lincoln winning 21-20. No, I'm going to go with 28-21, Curtis, on that one. Lincoln winning that one.
Well, I think it's going to be close, but I think at the end, Lincoln, is going to add some scores there at the end. You're talking about a difference of like 13, 14-12, and then they may score 1 or 2 times there at the end and go on to win the football game. I like 27-12 in favor of Lincoln. Too much athleticism for West Lincoln, and West Lincoln just still can't seem to find a way to beat Lincoln.
Our second game of 3 this week is St. Stephen's versus Alexander Central. St. Stephen's coming off a very close game with the Maiden Blue Devils, a final score of 56-48. That was a very close game, Curtis. St. Stephen's almost getting the upset on that one. They're going to play Alexander Central, that's led by former Newton Red Devils coach Nick Basil. Curtis, how do you think this game is going to fare out?
Well, Alexander Central is 7-1 versus Catawba County Schools or Catawba County teams since 2012. Their last loss being since a person we know very, very well is high school, Farron, back in 2012 when they lost to Hickory by a final score of 34-14. So Nick Basil and Alexander Central have done exceptionally well against Catawba County teams, St. Stephen's including. They defeated them 49-14 last year. Pretty much you can expect the same result this year because Alexander Central is just a better team than St. Stephen's. St. Stephen's is getting better. I told you that game would be close last week. The only thing I missed out on was the score. But either way, St. Stephen's is getting better. They'll play competitive early on with Alexander Central, but overall, I like the Cougars to come out on top, and they just seem to have St. Stephen's numbers, Zach.
You know, a lot of things that people are missing with the St. Stephen's team is their speed. They have a lot of speed.
Yes.
I was personally surprised when I seen St. Stephen's come out and put up so many points against the Maiden Blue Devils. Granted, the Blue Devils have a little bit of work to do on defense. Still a pretty impressive performance by the St. Stephen's Indians. I think that they might be able to focus some of that speed coming up in this upcoming game. I'm going to go with St. Stephen's getting about 30 points, but I think that Alexander Central is going to pull out with the win. I think they'll also be able to put up a lot of points. I'm going with, let's say, 31-62, Curtis, on this one.
I'm going to match yours. I'm going to go 44-31 Alexander Central in this football game, although I'm kind of questioning of whether or not I think St. Stephen's can score 31 points on Alexander Central's defense. But overall, I like Alexander Central. I'm not so sure they'll score 62 points. It's possible. It's very, very possible. As we see in high school football this year, 40, 50, 60 points. I mean, it's can you catch up? Can you keep up? I mean, the junior varsity football teams are doing the exact same thing. There's no such thing as defense in high school football in this area. this year. So I like 44-31, although I do doubt St. Stephen's can score that many points.
Like you said, Curtis, it's kind of breaking my heart because I'm a defensive guy, but a lot of teams are getting a lot of points game after game. It almost seems like if both teams aren't scoring above 40 points, at least one team is soaring way up there when it comes to touchdowns.
Yeah, it's just pretty much back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it's exciting if you like offense, but if you're a defensive guy, it's got to be terrifying to watch.
Our third and final game of this week is Maiden and South Caldwell. Like I said in the previous matchup, Maiden scored 56 points against the St. Stephen's Indians. Most of that offensive power was due to the sophomore quarterback of Caleb Farley. Caleb has a great ability to get outside of the pocket and scramble. And normally he scrambles for big yards. Curtis, I was watching that game and there was one play where I'm pretty sure he dodged the entire team. And it was a completely busted play which he took for 30 yards.
He's an amazing athlete. I mean, what he's done for Maiden, he has pretty much carried Maiden. And I can't remember the last time a sophomore in high school that's played varsity football carried Maiden's varsity football program. And Caleb Farley is certainly doing that for Maiden's varsity football team this year. And he's making that entire offense and that entire team, I think, better. They're 3-0. You can say what you want to. They haven't played anybody. There's the, well, they're not that good, or they're, wait till they play somebody. Regardless of what you say, Maiden is still 3-0 going into this big football.
I think they're actually surprising a lot of people, Curtis.
Yeah.
I mean,
They are.
A lot of people thought they were going to be shaky coming out this season. They've really showed some consistency when it comes to offensive power.
And the future only looks bright for this football team. You and I live in Maiden. We both know what's coming up, what the next couple of years brings for this team, for this young and inexperienced team. Everybody talks about inexperience, and how Maiden will struggle off and on. For this team to be 3-0 and to be inexperienced, granted they haven't played anybody. Yes, I know. I can hear everybody watching this now on Facebook saying, I haven't played anybody. Granted, they haven't played anybody. They're still 3-0, and you can't take that away from them. And coming up in the next couple of years with the kids they've got coming up, they're going to be a good football team.
Well, this next game they face might be their first test of the year. South Caldwell will travel to Maiden, led by quarterback Gavin Reed. South Caldwell coming off a very tough loss against my partner here's alumni school, AC Reynolds. Curtis, how do you think this game is going to fare out for the Blue Devils?
Well, South Caldwell had AC Reynolds beat, and, although I am an AC Reynolds guy, I probably should have beat AC Reynolds. And that was AC Reynolds' first win. South Caldwell loses at home last year to Maiden as we get back to the game, 38-14. Jake McCree, 8 of 16 passing last year, 206 yards, 4 touchdowns. Of course, no more Jake McCree. Now it's going to be up to Caleb Farley, Xavier Huff, and guys like Asani Forte who are starting to step up for Maiden on the offensive side of the football. But South Caldwell is a good defensive football team. They've only given up 42 points. The 26 points they gave up to AC Reynolds is the most points they've given up since the start of the 2014 regular season. They played Alexander Central tough, and they're not a bad football team. Not a good offensive team, but they make up for it in their defense. They are a good defensive football team.
Let's not forget about last year. South Caldwell was riddled with injuries.
Yeah, Zach Pollard did not play. I mean,
Zach
just a
Pollard
tough...
and a lot of offensive starters hurt, including their offensive linemen. It could have fared how the game played out, but all of that is in the past now as South Caldwell travels to Maiden. I'm going to go with a lower score on this one, 28-14. I think that Maiden might be able to pull out a win and go into their conference play undefeated. How do you think, Curtis?
Man, I've been thinking about this game since I knew we were going to do this today. This is tough for me because, they played Alexander Central pretty tough, and Alexander Central has done well against Catawba County schools. Maiden being at home, that factors in. I'm going South Caldwell. I think South Caldwell hands Maiden its first loss. I think Maiden has been very fortunate at times to pull out the wins that they pulled out. Granted, they are 3-0. I like South Caldwell this week, and I'm going with the Spartans 28-21.
Those are good scores. Well, those are the only 3 matchups you have in the Catawba Valley area. So if one of your teams has a bye week, hey, go to the next town, go to the next county and watch their games. This is Catawba Valley Blitz Sportscast. Like always, be sure to like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can follow us on all of those social media sites. And be sure to check out CatawbaValleyBlitz.com. I'm Zach Hansley. This is Curtis Sharp. Enjoy the football Friday night.